Hello, I'm Paul, and this is Paul Plays with Fire. Welcome. It's the middle of July. We're smack dab in the middle of corn country, and sweet corn is ready right now. So today on the show, we're going to be making corn on the cob. But we're going to be doing it a little bit different. We're going to cook it right here on the pellet smoker. That's right, we're going to be cooking it low and slow. Stick around, this should be interesting. We've got our fresh corn on the cob here, just picked this morning, and we're going to cook it 6 different ways and see how it goes. First of all, we're going to be cooking the corn right on the husk, silk and all. On another, we'll peel back the husk, remove the silk, and then wrap it back up. On another, we'll husk the corn and then wrap it in foil. On another, we'll soak the corn in water for an hour, and then we'll cook it whole. On another, we'll put the husked ear right on the grate. I don't know how that's going to go. And finally, we'll use the boil and steep method as our baseline. Each method has its pros and cons, and we'll talk about them as we go. We did some testing yesterday and we learned a few things. You can't trust a probe inside of a husk of an ear of corn. That's one thing we learned. But apparently what you can trust is an infrared thermometer on the surface of the corn once it's cooked. We're looking for 150 to 160 degrees to be considered done. And now it's time to fire up the smoker. We decided to go low and slow, so let's try 300 degrees. Let's go ahead and prepare our corn and use it for the 6 different methods. We'll have to shuck. Let's see, we got one that goes right straight on the grill shucked, and we're gonna do 2 more with our traditional boiling methods. We need to shuck all, and we got 1 more that needs to go right straight. So we need to shuck these 4. We need to pull the slope back on this one, and we need to leave this one alone. So let's start by just pulling back the silk. If you've never shucked sweet corn before, it's really not too hard. You just kind of grab it right like that, and just pull it back. Pull it back on both sides. You're going to pull the husk back, but leave it attached. Don't tear it off. And then we'll just get that silk back out of the way, best we can. And then we're going to put them right back up again. Now, along this gap, this will, as the corn dries, as the husk dries up, the husk will tighten up and then it'll leave a gap here. So we're going to take some of one of the other husk corn and put a couple extra pieces of husk in there to try and keep it from drying out and getting overcooked in that part. Okay, now we're just going to husk these straight, and that's so easy. Just grab it and pull it back, grab it and pull it back, break it off. There, just like that, a husked ear of corn. Grab it, pull it back, and there it is. Take it, grab it by the top, split it, pull it back, one big motion. Other side, same thing, one big motion. Look at that. That's a nice ear of corn. This is perfectly ripe too for sweet corn too. You can tell when it gets a little overripe, but once again the ears start to get a little dented and a little something. They aren't good that way. One more. Pull it back, grab the other side, pull it back. Snap the bottom off. There we go. We're going to take some of the husks from one of the ones we shucked, and then this one that we had the silk removed, we're going to peel it back, and then just lay the husks, some extra husks, right on top there, right on top of where they go together. So hopefully that'll keep it from drying out. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. And then we'll take a string and tie that off on the top to keep it all tight. And hopefully that'll be enough of a heat barrier that'll keep it from drying out. Let's get that grill started. Corn and I go back a long ways. I spent most of my life within a stone's throw of a cornfield. I detasseled corn as a kid. What's detasseling corn, you ask? The corn plant has both male parts, the tassel parts, which has the pollen, and female parts, the ear, which has the kernels. In fields where farmers are growing hybrid seed corn, they plant one type of corn for the tassels, the male rows, and another type of corn for the ears, the female rows. Detasselers, kids like me, go down the female rows and pull the tassels off the corn and female corn plants before they get to pollinating. This makes sure that the female rows are only pollinated by the male rows. And that's how hybrid corn is made. Well, our pellet smoker is up to 300 degrees, so it's well preheated, and we have our corn all lined up and ready to go in the oven. I've arranged it by the order I think it's going to be done in first. I think the one that just sits right out on the grate itself is going to be done first in probably about 20 minutes, and it's probably not going to be very good. I think this one wrapped in foil will probably be done in about 30 minutes. The one where we took the silk out and then rewrapped it, probably going to be done in about 35 maybe. The one that's just plain, we didn't do anything. This is a lazy man special. We didn't do anything to it. We just took it out of the bag, and now we're gonna put it on the grill. That's gonna be done in about 45 minutes, I'm guessing. And the soaked one, the one that's really kind of wet, is gonna be done in 15 minutes. It might even take an hour. So we'll go ahead and get those going. We'll go first done to last done. And we'll check back in about 20 minutes. Maybe we might even look a little sooner on that first one. I'm kind of worried about it. The sweet corn today we have is so much sweeter than the sweet corn we had when I was a kid. My grandpa's instructions for cooking corn was to get the water boiling, then run to the garden, pick your corn, and then run back as fast as you can to the kitchen, shucking the corn as you go. And the reason for this was as soon as that corn was picked, the sugars in the corn started converting into starches. The quicker my grandpa got that corn into the boiling water, the sweeter it would taste when it was done cooking. But today's sweet corn retains its sweetness so much longer than my grandpa's sweet corn. I still think you should use it the day it's picked, but you don't have to run in from the garden anymore. Hot stuff coming through. Whew. Our previously boiled water, it was just boiling inside, so we brought it outside. Where's my thermometer? There, this is the water we boiled on the inside, and it was just at boiling inside, and now it's at 194 degrees, so it's pretty darn hot still. So we're just gonna take the lid off, put these nice 2 ears of corn in there, and just let them steep in that water. And we'll check back on that water a couple minutes just for science to see what the temperature has settled onto and see if I got the water to corn proportions correct. So we'll see in a few minutes. Oh yeah, one more thing. While we're here, it's been 10 minutes, so I want to check on that poor little guy that's just hanging out in the elements all by himself without anything to cover him up. Oh yeah. We'll turn him over. And that's good for now. But he's going to be done in about 10 minutes. It'll be a little chewy, I think. So see you in 10 minutes. Let's talk about cooking corn on the cob, and let's start with the corn kernel. For cooking purposes, let's say the corn kernel has two parts, the inside part and the outside part. The outside part holds the inside part together. When we're cooking sweet corn, the inside part needs to get above 150 degrees for a bit. Being above 150 degrees converts the starches to sugars, and that's what makes the inside part turn creamy and delicious. Easy enough, right? But the outside part is where it gets tricky. If the pectin in the outside part gets above 170 degrees, it starts to break down into form. In overcooked corn, you'll see kernels that are starting to dent and shrivel. Nobody wants that. It's nasty and it gets in your teeth. Okay, I'm suspecting that our first ear is going to be ready, the one that's just sitting bare naked on the grate there, the poor fella. We'll go ahead and pull it out. Before we do that, I want to talk about some special, if you're very serious about corn eating, and apparently I am, there's a couple accessories that are just a must-have. The first is a corn boat, a little place to place your ear of corn, and then when you butter it and salt and pepper it, it all stays right in the pan. Second thing, crabbers. So you stick them on either end of the corn, and then you just pick it up to eat so you don't have to get your fingers quite as dirty. There's no way to do this well though. There's no way to be clean about this. The other thing is a butter applier. You put butter in there, got to be a little bit firm, and then put this on, and then just take it right over the top of and as you press down, the butter will come out, and that way you get a good coating of butter. So anyway, there's just some must-have accessories for eating sweet corn. Now let's check on that poor little guy. Well, that's really not too bad. That's really not too bad. It's got a little char to it. Let's just see if my tried and true 153. So that might be telling me it's done. So I think we're going to call it done. We'll let that cool just a little bit. It's plenty hot. The kernels have not really dimpled yet, so that's really pretty good. I'm kind of impressed. I didn't expect that. I expected it was going to be burned to a crisp, because mostly anytime I see anybody else cook corn this way, that's what happens. They burn it to a crisp, and it's just, as a corn guy, that makes me mad. Well, anyway, we'll check back in a few minutes, and maybe our other corn will be ready too. Nowadays, most sweet corn farmers grow bicolor sweet corn. meaning that some of the kernels are white and some are yellow. Around here it's referred to as peaches and cream sweet corn. I asked the fella selling the corn if he knew what the variety was. He said he did. I asked him if he could tell me what that variety was. He said he couldn't. Farm secret. And that's the way it goes around here. Sweet corn is a funny, competitive business. Let's check in on our boiling water steeping corn. It's been about 20 minutes, and the water is now at 158 degrees. So that's just exactly where we want it. That's right in the good zone between 150 and 170 degrees. So, like I said earlier, when you bring that boiling water out, add a little corn to it, it brings the temperature down so it stays out of the danger range where you're going to overcook your corn, and then it just steeps at just the right temperature. And it'll sit this way for half an hour or an hour if you want to. You can pull an ear out after an hour, and it's still edible. So it's my best way to cook corn, even though we're trying to use a pellet smoker today. Okay, I loaded up my butter dispenser. We're gonna put a little butter on this guy and follow it with a little salt and pepper, just to make it taste good. And just try a bite. That's really pretty good. No, that is really pretty good. The exterior of the kernels have a little bit of a firm touch that I think is from being out in the wind in the pellet smoker. And yeah, they kind of get stuck in your teeth a little bit too. So I think the outside of the kernel is breaking down a little bit from being out in the wind, but that's to be expected. But it's really quick and it's really not too bad. Just be very careful not to overcook it. If you do use this method, and I don't know it's your best bet for cooking corn, but if you do use this method, keep an eye on it. And let's see, in a little bit, we'll have our control ready and we'll try that. And I know it's gonna be good, so I'm looking forward to that. Here's another fun corn fact. Field corn and sweet corn are the same thing. Different hybrids, sure, but the same plant genus. First there's field corn, which is what we call corn that's raised to feed pigs and cows. And then there's sweet corn, which is corn that's sold on the roadside stands and at farmers markets. The difference between sweet corn and field corn is that sweet corn is picked when the kernels are at the milk stage and still sweet. Field corn, on the other hand, is allowed to fully ripen and begin drying in the field before it is harvested. Our steeped corn, the corn that's been sitting in now 144 degree water, is done, completely done. It's ready to go. I'm going to pull an ear out. And just look at that. That's a thing of beauty. Perfectly cooked. Put it in a tray. Set the Dutch oven back out of the way. I've got another one in there for later. Okay, that's too hot to eat right now. That's okay, we'll set it aside. And then I'm pretty sure our foil corn is also done. Oh yeah, I forgot to take the temperature on this one just to prove it. Yes, it's right the temperature. When I checked it earlier, it was at 156, so it's cooled off since I didn't check it soon enough when I got it out here, but it's fine. It's good to go. And this one looks pretty well done. You know, they're pretty similar. That's a 167 right now, so that's perfect. It's not hot enough that the outer part of the kernel started breaking down, but it's good and hot. So they're both too hot. No, I think I can eat this one. We'll give it a try. Put just a little bit on there, just to make it taste good. A little salt, a little pepper. And since this is our baseline here, we're going to be testing it over and over again. I'm going to go ahead and put the grippers in. I'll show you how convenient these are. It'd be even better if I cut off the ends, but I didn't. There, see how that works? That is perfectly cooked sweet corn. That's a great baseline. I don't think anything can beat that. I hope it does, but that's such good corn. Oh, yum. Okay, now we'll move over to this one. It's still kind of hot, but I'll try it anyway. Show must go on. See how slick that butter thing is? You know, you just Smear it back and forth a little bit, get as much or as little butter as you want. Put a little pepper, a little salt. That's pretty good. That's really good. Well, I don't know. Giving it a run for the money. Something about doing it in the grill makes the kernels a little more to the tooth. They have a little more firmness to them. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's a thing. Well, give it another couple minutes. We'll see what comes up next. As we pull all the silk off this here, I'll share one more corn fact. Each kernel has its own single strand of corn silk that's connected to it. The silk is the pollen receptor, and in flower terms, the tassel is the stamen, and the silk is the stigma, and the kernel is the pistil. Once the silk has been pollinated, the silk's job is done, and the silk disconnects from the kernel and dries up. So you can see it dry it up. And sometimes you'll see ears that are missing a few kernels. This is because for whatever reason, the kernel silk didn't get pollinated, and so the kernel didn't develop. Okay, next year coming out. This one's in the husk, but we removed the silk. And as you can see, even though we tried to prevent it, the husks tightened up and exposed some of the corn. So that's probably going to be a little overcooked. And well, we'll see. Let's go ahead and pop that open. Get rid of all those husks. It's not too bad. The nice thing about this method of cooking corn is it's kind of fancy. I mean, you can, I've been at festivals before where they tied this all back, the top part, and then they pull it out, they cook it just like we did, pull it out, dip this in butter, and then hand it to you. Boy, that's a treat. But it's about like $8 these days, so it's not really worth it. We're gonna put a little salt on here, and a little pepper, and a little butter. I know it's still burn your face hot, but we're gonna wait. Go ahead and do that. And if I check the surface temperature, it's at 150. I think it was like 170 when I took it out. It was pretty hot. So we'll go ahead and get a mouthful of baseline just so we know what we're doing. Still good. Fancy corn. That's pretty good. You know, that's really good. The husk provides just enough thermal protection from the wind and the heat in there that it really holds together pretty well, and it's not really, the kernels are not that firm. They're really quite tasty. Well, I don't think that's kind of method I'm going to use, but I wouldn't not. If you wanted to use it, I would go ahead and try it because it's kind of cool. And if you've hung with me this long, especially if you stuck it out through all that corn talk, you probably ought to go ahead and subscribe and just give me a thumbs up. Enough said. Well, our next tier up is ready. And if you recall, this is the Lazy Man special, the Procrastinator special. I didn't do anything to it, I just put it straight on the grill. And so it's still got all the silk to deal with, so we just got to husk it a little bit, but that doesn't take very long. Bear with me. Well, you gotta say that the husk comes, or the silk comes off really easy when it's cooked. I just basically pulled on it and everything pulls back just like it does. And once again, you got fancy corn, so there's that. That still feels hotter than the dickens. So we'll put a little butter on that. I suppose I should take a temperature just so nobody gets hurt. Yeah, 151, that's pretty hot. Have another little taste of baseline corn just so we know what we're talking about. Still good. You knew it would be, but still good. Boy, that's just one of life's simple pleasures. Just an ear of corn, a little salt, pepper, and butter. You know me, my seasoning, that's about as simple as it gets. That's just a little salt, pepper, and butter is all I really need. Okay, this is the Lazy Man special. Just put it straight on the fire. Oh, that's good. That's really good. I have to say I highly recommend that. And just like the corn that's steeped in water, at 300 degrees, I think it's a very forgiving fire, especially if you got this much mass around the corn. It keeps her from getting overheated, and it just really buffers the heat well. So yeah, that's really good. Now, let's just keep it rolling. We got one less year in there. Yeah, that's done too. Okay, that's about an hour and 5 minutes, I think, was the total project, and we were pulling the air off every 10 minutes or so. Husk it up quick. Whew, hot. We'll be right back. I got a mess to clean up, and that needs to cool a little bit. Well, here it is, last year. And this is the one that we soaked in water and then put in husk and silk and all. And it looks really good. I think that's going to be really good too. Another little bite of baseline, just to make sure we know what we're doing. Make sure we know what our target is. Plus, it's really good. Still good. And then we'll go to our last one. And this is corn that we soaked for about an hour in the husk and then threw the husk right straight in the pellet grill at 300 degrees. Boy, that's really good. Boy, there are several of them in here that are really good candidates for doing it. This is one way I would do it. Leaving the husk and the silk on and just throw it straight in, the Lazy Man Special. And the foil was all right. I don't know that I would throw one straight on the coals. It's just not right. But this is great. Sweet corn with just butter, salt, and pepper. Oh, that's so good. That so reminds me of my childhood and growing up with my grandpa, and everything's good about it. Now if I just had a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich to go with it, everything would be perfect. This has been Paul's Plays with Fire. Thanks for watching.